Hi and welcome to another Club 100 karting video. This time we're at Llandow in South Wales, just a week after the last round at Bayford Meadows. Llandow's a completely new track to me, but I knew that it would be a bit of a physical challenge. It's got a bit of a reputation for that. The track also has a really high grip surface, so much so that the entire fleet of karts get a new set of tyres between the endurance and Sprint60 races on Saturday and the sprints on Sunday, because they are basically worn out after day one. So on to qualifying. I've really struggled in qualifying so far this season, often going quicker in the practice part of the session and slower in qualifying, which has been really frustrating. But at Llandow, right from the start, I like the track. I found it's got really nice flow to it, and the amount of grip really inspires quite a lot of confidence. So let's take a slow motion lap around the Llandow circuit. So coming across the start finish line and heading into turn one. Turn one is a brake, and then a much heavier brake into the hairpin section before we're flat on the throttle. What you might have noticed is there are pairs of dots on the track which actually show you the racing line around the circuit, which is really useful if you've never been to the place before. Coming into the double left-hander, the first apex is not super critical, but you really need to hit the second apex and stay over to the left before we come into McWhirters. McWhirters is basically, you need to be patient through here. If you really go heavy on the gas, you can end up getting over that nasty sausage curb on the outside, which, I mean, if you do any more than just get a wheel on it, it's a track limit warning. It's a track limit penalty without even a warning. So it's best avoided. Coming out of McWhirters, we're then flat out into the bottom corner, which we've been through, and then again flat out coming into the really quite nasty chicane. This is really physical. If you don't ride the curbs, you're basically going to get no joy out of it whatsoever. Out of the chicane, we're then flat out all the way to the final corner. This section is just a case of minimising steering input and just trying to carry as much speed as possible until we come into the really heavy braking section coming into the final corner. Then try and get close to the apex. I don't manage it that time. And then you can then run quite wide out of the final corner across the start finish line. So despite being in traffic for that lap, you can see I'm already setting consistently faster laps than the pace I was in the earlier part of qualifying. You know, they were high 55s, low 56s, and I've managed to get into the low 55s pretty quickly. I think part of this is both being quite a bit more confident and happy with the track, particularly from a grip point of view, but also I got quite lucky in terms of not hitting a huge amount of traffic or being caught by traffic when I was trying to set fast laps. So again, you can see pretty consistent 55.2, 55.4, 55.4. Again, all still quicker than laps in the practice part of the session, but clearly I'd like to go faster. So I've just had one of the front runners, Ryan, come past me, which is quite useful. It's quite a good measure to try and set a decent lap. We crossed the line and we've got 27 seconds left on the clock, so literally this is my last chance to get a time in. If I can manage to stay reasonably close to Ryan, I know that I've got a decent lap time. And I mean, he's getting a bit held up here, so certainly not ideal for him, but quite good for me in terms of measuring myself. First half of lap's been pretty tidy. Coming into the corner off the back straight, again quite neat and tidy. Don't run too wide. Into chicane, quite not bad. I could have maybe been a bit further over to the left there, and now it's just a case of keeping my foot pinned to the floor, go as fast as I can, probably pick up a bit of a slipstream, nail the final corner, and then get on the gas to cross the line, and 54.8. So final lap of qualifying, I've managed to set my fastest time. Something I haven't managed to do all season, so I was really happy about that. And that's my best qualifying effort to date. That's 28th on the grid. It might not seem like a lot, but you know, if you're not having to battle past 4 or 5 karts on the opening lap, and you're always looking forward, and you're not worried about, you know, people coming from behind you, you know, that should make a real difference. So yeah, at this point I was really, you know, well, obviously not this point because I didn't know, but once I got out of the car, got back to the car and had a look at the times on my phone, I was feeling really happy. It's nice to come to a new track and actually come out qualifying with a reasonably decent performance. So going into race 1. Don't make a very good start. I'm on the outside here. It's probably not the ideal place to be. There's a bit of excitement in front of me, and then I go and get pushed out wide onto the grass here. It's all just kicking off. And I've probably slipped back quite a long way from my starting position, which, you know, a little bit frustrating really, but then there's more people off on the grass here coming out of McWhirter's. So just get my head down, try and not get involved in anyone else's incident, and then let's see if we can build from there. Not too bad through the chicane onto the back straight, and you can see there's a big group of karts in front of me here coming into the final corner, and it's all about to kick off. So I don't know if this guy has an issue, puts his arm up, he locks up, maybe trying to avoid the spinner in front, and literally takes about 4, possibly 5 karts out in one foul swoop. Very good for me. So I'm hoping here that lap 2 is going to be a bit less eventful, and I can maybe focus on moving forward and not avoiding a large group of spinning karts. So coming into the final corner again, we've got someone that's outbraked themselves and spun. I've also got one of the guys recovering from one of the many lap 1 incidents just come past me. But hopefully I can move forward from here and not lose a ton of positions. You can see the guy in front, looks like he's struggling a bit for grip, and it might be because he went off on the grass. I mean, he's still quick though, but clearly being right on the right hand side coming to McWhirter's is not good, and he was also a bit wide on the way out of McWhirter's as well. So we're coming up to the end of lap 3, which certainly seems much less exciting than the previous couple of laps. And I'm already a 10th under my qualifying time, so 54.7, which is again really positive. You know, I'm both pretty consistent and able to pick up a bit of pace here and there, so it's definitely working quite well at this moment. So I jumped forward a few laps because there wasn't a huge amount of interest happening really. So we're jumping from lap 4 to around lap 8. So we rejoin the action on lap 8. I'm about to get passed by, I think, what are some karts recovering from various incidents. We can see we've got someone off here on the corner onto the back straight. And I at least seem to be catching this guy reasonably well, certainly at this point of the lap. Through the final corner. Almost actually hit the apex that time, which is nice. So that's a 54.5, which again is 3/10 quicker than I managed during qualifying. So, you know, I think both. I suppose as the track evolves a little bit, and also I get more confident with it, I'm definitely able to pick up my pace a bit. And the other positive thing is, you know, this guy has just come past me. He's recovering, I think, from some sort of earlier incident, but he's not leaping away from me. It's not as if he's just driving off into the distance yet. At any rate, you know, he's not. He's quicker than me, but not. You know, it's not night and day. So if you look at the lap times for the last nine laps, there are four of those laps are all quicker than my qualifying time. So, you know, it's just nice for once to be able to see real progression as I'm just getting more and more comfortable with the track itself. And again, another 54.5 is another fastest lap at that point for me. So you can see the last 3 laps are all quicker than my qualifying performance. So I've just been passed by Stig, who never quite manages to break away from me, I think, until some of the leaders intervene. So I end up staring at the back of Stig's kart for quite a few laps. Maybe slightly frustrating in terms of it seems like it was quite easy for him to get past at that point, but then he really doesn't break away. You know, we're clearly quite evenly matched on pace. To be honest, it's the next few laps, or quite a few laps, are pretty uneventful. So I've skipped forward almost to the end of race 1 when I start having a battle with one of the heavyweights, which is quite interesting because generally I don't see them apart from when I'm being lapped. So it was quite a fun few laps. So as I mentioned previously, you can see Stig is in front of me. He's broken away a bit, but we've been lapped at this point. And now Mr. Heavyweight's going to come past, which is hardly surprising given that he could easily be 10-15 kilos lighter than me with the same amount of power in his car. And you can see from the lap times, although on lap 24 again I've set another fastest lap for me, I've kind of lost a bit of pace. You know, I'm half a second or so slower on average compared to that fastest lap, so yeah, maybe it's just I'm tired at this point. It's entirely possible. It is a very, very physical track. And in fact, the bruised ribs I picked up, even with wearing a rib protector, has taken 2 weeks for me to recover fully. So yeah, I did take a bit of a battering from this one. But still, I managed to do a couple of laps in the 54s, which, you know, again, well, the last lap, lap 32, was again faster than my qualifying effort, which isn't always the case. So, for whatever reason, me and Llandow seem to get on quite well. And again, you know, this guy got past me, but he's not over the hills and far away. He's not disappeared that much. Maybe he's getting held up by Stig, I don't know. So coming across the line, we got the final lap board out. You know, I don't think, unless either of these two guys do something really silly, I don't think anything dramatic's going to happen. But you know, it's been a reasonably solid race. The first few laps were quite frantic. Middle of the race, just following Stig, was not hugely entertaining. Normally I'd maybe hope perhaps that being caught by the leaders would give me an opportunity to make a move, but really didn't materialise, and then just literally this little segment here with the heavyweight catching me was kind of the only bit of excitement towards the end of the race. But here we go through the final corner, coming to the checkered flag, and similar to the performance in quali, I've managed to set my fastest lap, and in fact this was my fastest lap of the day on the final lap of the race, which is quite satisfying, and I almost got into the 53s, which would have been really good for me. To race 2, I even make up a place because someone doesn't start the race, so I'm up to 25th, I think, from my 26, from what should have been a 26th place start. The start's not great. I've lost a few places. Again, there's more grass all over the place, so clearly someone's been off the track. A bit of contact there in front as well. So I've lost probably, I don't know, 2 or 3, if not 3 or 4 places through that first part of the first lap. There's then a bit of contact and people scattering all over the place through the chicane. And I actually make a move on the brakes down to the final corner to complete lap 1, which actually wasn't as bad as I thought perhaps it was. I'd managed to make up a few places and kind of retained my starting position at that point. So there's quite a pack in front of me. Again, they don't seem to be breaking away from me at this point through the more technical part of the track. And I'm even closing up a bit on the brakes through the chicane. But what I did begin to notice is coming on, particularly on the back straight, which is the longest full throttle part of the track, that they seem to be just pulling away a little bit from me. Again, I was able to close up on the brakes, but I wasn't really keeping pace with them at that point. I mean, at this point, I'm just hoping I can get a reasonable rhythm, not make too many mistakes, and then, you know, hopefully, when there's a big pack of karts in front and they're all fighting, generally they're going to slow each other down a little bit in comparison with just, you know, being in clean air and just concentrating on hitting their laps. Again, coming onto that back straight, this big group is pulling away a little bit. I mean, it might be the slipstream effect, but it just seems I'm struggling a bit. Again, there's a bit of battling going on in front, which I would hope I could use to my advantage. Oh, there's a couple of karts off there onto the grass. But again, you can see this group in front of me are kind of pulling away, and someone's really managed to quite easily get through on the inside on the brakes. But despite that, you know, in the more technical bits of the track, I'm able to, you know, keep it reasonably close and not lose too much ground. So it's almost a bit of contact there, I think. I've closed up a bit, but there's a kart on my right hand side and he's through. And it seems the kart kind of plateaus a bit. It's a little bit slower out of the corners than I would like, I think. And it just doesn't seem to quite reach the same top speed that the kart I had in race 1. So I'm able to almost get back past, but it's almost like I just can't quite get the, you know, I'm just getting that last little bit of acceleration out of the corners. over the following few laps, I end up losing a few more places, particularly along the back straight and coming into the final corner. You know, as I said, the kart just seems like it lacks a bit right at the top end. So I skip forward quite a bit because there's not a huge amount of interest to talk about. So having started from a season's best 26th place, I end up slipping back to 30th, and it was just a bit frustrating. I don't honestly know whether some of it was purely down to what I perceived to be a lack of performance of the car I had in the second race, or maybe I just need to adapt to it, and I couldn't or wasn't able to do that. But it was just a bit frustrating. I was hoping that, you know, from my starting position I would make up places, but you know, it just really didn't seem to happen for me for whatever reason. So I'm going to leave the footage here. I'm then going to show a comparison between my fastest lap in race 1 against my fastest lap in race 2, and you can see the difference between the two and the difficulties I was having with the performance at that point. So although the difference between the two laps isn't huge, 54, almost 54 flat against 54.9, the consistency in race 1 was much better than in race 2. And it definitely wasn't on the brakes or the low speed. It really is the peak speed. You can see in that section, peak speed for race 1 is considerably better than peak speed for race 2, and it's really telling on the back straight here. You can see just how much faster the car from race 1 is. 2 miles an hour is a hell of a lot. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time when we'll have, hopefully, some decent action from Wilton Mill.